Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to this week's episode of Tuesday Preppers, where we take a look at the in-game news for Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, see what kinds of content is coming out, and talk about how to get ready for it using, killer abilities and materias and things like that that are going to help you to kind of gear up. This week is special because we got Clash of Wills coming out, which means we're going to do our big review of all the races and element combinations and units and things like that. That may be able to help you kind of put together a team, because Clash of Wills is usually a bigger deal than your average EX fight or something like that. So I'm excited because it's something to do in the game. We haven't had something to do for several weeks, and so Clash of Wills has actually been on my mind pretty steadily since March 1st when we got the monthly bulletin. But let's take a look and see what we have here so that we can kind of share what we've been thinking about kind of behind the scenes. Real quick before I do, want to point this out, and this is something that I'm excited about. There's a known issue here that the upgraded version of Kurdsvard and Tillingsvard do not activate the Trustmaster abilities for Roos and Tyvis and Yish respectively. I put in a ticket about this for Roos specifically because after you upgrade his TMR after doing the Sealed Tower, his TMR no longer activates his Trust ability, which is a big deal because Roos specifically cannot wear his STMR in his shift form. And so he has to wear his TMR, and that's a big deal. So I'm glad that they are looking at that and fixing it. They put this update out today. And then also there's some stuff about like displaying the wrong icons and blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? Just visual. This is a bigger deal. Bigger deal if you like using Roos. I think it's a big deal. Anyways, on to the bigger stuff that's going on. And I don't want to belabor this too much, but there is a new Neovisions Plus unit coming out. We did not get a live stream, so that I didn't really go into a whole lot of detail with us yet about Blood Mage Xyrus. I think the sprite is very busy and colorful, and in that way, to me, kind of like garish and like, hey, here it is. But I do think it's really cool that his staff looks the way that it does, because that staff for him has always looked like that. I love that they're keeping true to the character. Major drop rates increased, March 21st. There's a step up with a card with some units. I've got half of these at EX3 already. I don't have Sarah at all, and Leftia I've got like maybe one copy of, so I don't know about that one. But for 50k, you can pity a copy of Xyrus. Also, you do get tokens along the way, and Xyrus's fragments are available in the shop, which is really, really good for a Neovisions Plus unit. Here's what we got here. He's a mage. He focuses on doing water damage. He's got a vision card that is only so-so. He's got this EX ability that is basically only useful for him because it's Clash of Wills category only, and there are no other Clash of Wills in the NV Plus units. His STMR gives 100 Aquatic Killer and Dragon Killer, which is super, super good, and LB damage 50%, and Magic True Double Hand 100%. Very, very solid materia. I would recommend getting, at least 3 or 4 of these. His TMR is a two-handed staff, 225 magic, basically good just for him, but does give killers for Dragon's Beast and Aquatic at 50%, Dragon 100%. He's got all the normal stuff. Now this is a little, this is where it's concerning to me. He's got Dragon Killer, mainly looks like just for him, does not say for all allies. We already have Ong, we already have Kaito, we already have Melissa. We've got tons of ways to get Dragon Killer on your party. I would love for this to be aquatic, and specifically aquatic for all allies, but we're not seeing that here. He also has a Vertex ability that boosts water magic damage, water damage for LB's abilities, and magic for all allies. So I'm curious to know, like, is this better than Ong's, which does the same thing? I'm just curious to see what the numbers are here. So because they did not go over this in a live stream, we're missing a lot of information, and I just want to see more. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this on Thursday morning when we see Xyrus's full kit. As of right now, just what they're showing on screen, and I'll throw this out there. He's a water mage. Chao, Guardian of the Underworld Chao, is also a water mage, locked to water. But Chao at least has some dark flexibility, some light flexibility. He's got other things in his kit. He's got killers for other units besides just himself. He's got like healing. He's got buffs. He's got all kinds of stuff that he can do. if Xyrus is just a water magic locked damage dealer, which is what it looks like, to me that's not super exciting. I chased after Chow. I just got Chow to EX3, and I know that Xyrus being an NV plus unit is going to be way more damage than Chow, but I feel like the way I pull, the way I play, like chasing after somebody that just does one thing is not that useful to me. So I don't know. I want to see the full kit. We'll learn more as we go. But the bigger deal that we're going to talk about is Clash of Wills. So Clash of Wills is, you know, one of my favorite pieces of content. And really the way it is right now, it is basically the only content that we're getting this week. So I'm really hoping that this Clash of Wills event is really exciting and really good. Here's our new information. So they do say we're going to be getting Azure Pearls from the individual rewards. Clash of Wills Sea Serpent of Unknown Origin. The boss's name is you can see it here on the screen if I scroll down, Thalassa. It's an aquatic dragon beast. It's weak to water, dark, fire, and light. And Thalassa, in case you weren't sure, is the Greek word for sea, or the ocean. And it is a divine female personification of Greek mythology of the ocean. Thalassa is a Greek goddess of the sea, and Thalassa mingled with Pontus, her male counterpart, and produced all the fish and other sea creatures. So we don't know specifically if Thalassa in FFBE is a female. I'm gonna call it a female just because it you know, it's got embellishments, it's got crowns, it's got bangles, it's got like sparkly stuff on its chest and legs and arms. So I'm gonna say Thalassa is a female. Thalassa is also one of Neptune's moons, which is kind of cool. So if you're like into astronomy and Greek mythology, and there you go, you get lots of love for lore there. Thalassa, the sea serpent. Anyways, sorry, I'm being a big dork. Thalassa uses non-elemental physical attacks and magic, dark, and water attacks. It also imperils you to those and breaks your stats. Uses poison, sleep, paralysis, confusion, and stone, and it will counter you if you do not deal one of its elemental weaknesses every turn. As usual, it starts with higher morale in Echelon 5s and beyond. And also, they tell us this little fun tidbit. You get bonus morale when you boost your status ailment resistance. This is really important because one, you already kind of have to for this boss, but two, it boosts it for every status ailment. It boosts it per unit, per effect, per turn. So like if you use an AoE status ailment immunity buff, it's going to give you a lot of bonus morale. So like we're going to talk about why that matters in a little bit, but that could be really important for helping you kind of push the morale gauge as fast as you can. If you've got a spare action to boost your status ailment resistance, go ahead and do it. Pretty cool. Then they tell us who the new focus units are. Usually they go over this in a live stream. There was no live stream, so we kind of have to kind of like read it here on the screen. But the Focus Plus units are the Esper of Destruction units, Avalanche Tifa, the Mana series units, Fastest in the Sky Setzer, Magic Markswoman Physalis, and Metza. Everybody else is just like the FFBE season 1 through 4, all the series units, Another World, Anniversary, and rewards units, but not just ones who are FFBE tagged. You have to be season 1 through 4. So we'll talk about why that matters in just a minute too. Beyond that though, you also need to make sure you have your Vertex units. Vertex units being, primarily Ong, Mireille, Esther, any Clash of Wills unit, and then of course Xyrus is going to have his. So it's cool, hopefully getting some good information. And then about the sprite, this dragon sprite has been used a lot in a lot of different pieces of content. It does have these kind of glowy bits, and I'm really hopeful that like in higher echelons it's going to look a little bit different. Obviously it's going to kind of keep the base sprite just like the last month's did, but like I hope it just gets a little more embellishments. So the one last month got like these like cool floating orbs around it, and And I'm just hoping that this ends up looking really menacing, because I actually do kind of dig the color scheme. It's just kind of generic to me. But, you know, it's an ancient multi-headed sea serpent said to have sunken countless ships, and I think she's a lady. So let's talk about what you need to do to get ready for this boss. As usual, when we are talking about Clash of Wills, we kind of go over all the units that might kind of fit into different categories for things that you might want to take. And so I have this fun list that I keep track of all this stuff on for Clash of Wills. And as you can see, we're gonna look at the killers first. Between Aquatic, Dragon, and Beast, Aquatic is a category that is majorly suffering as far as like units that you might want to bring. And so remember I said earlier that I really wish that Xyrus had AoE Aquatic Killer. It's because there's basically nobody that does. If you look at Aquatic, you know, Esper of Destruction, Rain has a self buff. Roberta and Ignitos has a AoE buff. Beach Blaster Olive has a self buff. Magic Mermaid Frisia has a party buff. Lord of the Seas Nicole at higher EX levels has a Aquatic Killer buff. Marine type Runda has Aquatic party buff. Dragonlore's Roost self only. Dark Dragon Buffon, it's party buff at 150%, but that's it. Like there are some smaller ones, like if you want to get into like 100%, 75%, but as far as good Aquatic Killer buffs, they just don't exist. There's very little support for Aquatic, which is why this is hard. Compare that to Dragon. Dragon has over twice as many, and that's not even including the bad ones, just the good ones. Tidebringer Kaito, Sarah, Roberta Ignitos again has Aquatic and Dragon. Don't know if you remember, Roberta Ignitos came out with Aldaba, who was Aquatic Dragon, so that makes sense. Sky has self dragon buffs. Curse of Immunity Melissa has dragon buffs for party and for a single target. Fina Dark Lineage, same thing. Same thing with Rosa. Actually, Rosa's our single target only. Ibarra, Blade of Vengeance Ibarra has a self buff. Ihana has options. Vilk, General Celeste, Lastwell Reagan, Sharpshooter Irvin for self only. Wild Rose Furion, self only. Blood Mage Xyrus, we know he's got something that seems to be a self buff for dragons, which makes sense because he was the dragon slaying mage. Ong has a really good one for the party. Mana Sword Hero Randy self only, and Vern has self only as well for dragon. Beast has even more options. Samurai Chizuru, Ling, Melissa, Fina Dark Lineage, 2 categories, very nice. Lara Croft, Ihana, 2 categories, very nice. Rosa, 2 categories, nice. Eldrin, Ayaka, Rain, Fina, pretty much all the Neovision Reigns have Beast Killer of some sort. Nora, Divine Beast Chow for a self buff, Serge for a self buff, Lunar Festival Cleome for the party, Olive Chow of the Underworld Chow has a buff that does himself and somebody else, which is really nice. Axstar the Return has it on a limit burst, random, but it's there. Barrel, the new Winter Barrel has it. Irvin, Sabin, Lynx, and Lord of the Seas Nicole has a 100% buff, which goes nicely with his 100% aquatic buff. So it's there. We've got options, but as you can see, like putting together aquatic and squeezing that in there is gonna be really challenging, I think, for a lot of players because there's just very few options. But if you've got Roberta, you've got Dragon and Aquatic covered, which is really nice. And in fact, Roberta was one of the first units that I was planning on taking before I put together the rest of my team. So I ended up swapping out Roberta out. Spoiler alert. We'll take a look at my team in just a minute. As far as the water elements go, not just water, you've got water, dark, light, and fire. We've actually talked about all of these before. There's tons of good support for water, light, and fire. Dark is actually surprisingly kind of harder to build a team around. But the biggest sells I would say are, that Kaito, Ong, and Metza have good options for like water support. But if you're looking for other options, Tiana has a weak amp, Cacteria has breaks, imperils, imbues, Shui Yi has just damage, Free Addison Ray has imbues, Folka NVA chaining imbues, she has flood, which is 135 imperil. Lord of the Seas Nicole has a 100% rolling amp for a single target, AoE, big water imperil if you did his crowns. We'll talk about why that matters in a little bit. Songstress Yuna, again, rolling amp 100%. Laguna, fairly good breaks. Lulu, fairly good breaks. Elena, damage. Avalanche Tifa is now upgraded to NV+, and she's one of our Focus Plus units, and she's a water damage dealer, so awesome. Carton has some water support. Dragon Lord Roos has water support and damage. Selfie using Siren does water Imperil Field. Guardian Underworld Xiao does a water amp field. If you have Kaito or if you have Ong, you probably don't need Xiao, but Xiao also has a rolling 100% amp for the whole party. Yoshikiri has some stuff. Dark Dragon Buffon has some stuff. Denial of Focus Vanille has an Imperil Field. Saz has an amp field. Metza, we already talked about. Ingus has breaks and Imperil Field. Esper Destruction, Rain, and Lastwell have just damage. And then Mana Sword Randy has damage, as does Evoker has some damage and an Imperil Field. And then Prim and Papoy are both mana units who do some kind of like water support. So I think water's obviously gonna be our best option. There's like more water support units than anybody else right now. Any other element, so a lot of good choices. But Dark, you know, if you wanted to go there, you could go with Yuna, Melissa, Ibarra, Dark Fina, Elisperis, Void Mage Roka to do some good buffing. Nelica, Dark Rain, Bulwark, Deosis, Gilgamesh, Lilith, Golbez, Vlad, Renoa, Lynx, Blades of Black Flame, Reagan, Soul, Carton, Malphasi. Redwing Cecil kind of has some dark damage. Ladies, Jantoto, and Corral for Imperils and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, I feel like Dark is just going to kind of be a subpar option until the next couple weeks where we get some more Dark units. Light and Fire are most likely going to be the like sub elements that you can do like safe things, but the boss is not particularly weak to them. And you know, I'm going to go ahead and leave this on here, but I don't think these are probably your best bet. Although I will say that the Fire team does have a lot of really great options between Aya Brea, Hyo and Panthera Ultimus, Genesis, Dwayne. You know, you've got a lot of options there. Vern. Yeah, a lot of good options for Fire, but I don't think those are the best two. We're gonna just focus on Water and Dark here. That said, there you go. So let's talk about the needs for the fight. We know you're either gonna have to deal with physical attacks or magic attacks. For physical tanks, we talked about Jecht, Lilith, and Runda. Runda and Jecht have focus. Lilith does not. Lilith also can buff dark resistance, and Jecht does water. So those are both useful. If you're going to be taking a magic tank, Abigail's honestly probably the best one. She has racial mitigation for aquatics and beasts, which is a big deal, and she can do this on demand on top of breaking and filling morale. So she's a really solid option that I think most people probably want to just stick with Abigail if you have them. But if the boss ends up being more physical inclined, Jecht might be a good choice, just like last month. General Celeste is a backup option for magic tank. She does have racial mitts for aquatic and dragon, and also can fill the focus gauge. Potentially useful. As far as water and dark resistance, you know, we talked about Melissa and Lilith, Chow, and Jecht already. Blade of Vengeance Ibarra, if you're going with a dark team, also has Bar Darkja. And the Bar Dark and Bar Water spells are what we're mainly talking about for elemental resistances. Melissa also has shared immunity, which is going to help fill morale. And buffs elemental resistance for other things too. So speaking of status ailment immunity, Melissa's shared immunity is really good. Sylvie has Compassionate Night. Abigail has Veil, which is better than nothing. She could kind of work that in as one of her third actions. If you've got nothing random to do, just cast Veil. It's going to give you bonus morale. Kresnik can fill morale using status ailment heals and stuff like that. King Bahimi, okay, whatever. He can do it, but it's like, it's just whatever. Why are you bringing Bahimi to this fight? And then Leftia. Leftia is interesting because she is on the Fire team, right? So she's Fire as an option rather, because she can do Fire Amp, rolling Fire Amp for single target. She's got options, but she's also got, if you use her sandals, her gear gives her the ability to cast a status immunity buff for the whole party. So that would be a way to fill bonus morale, right? Bonus morale, status resists. We got our Vertex and Focus units here. We've already talked about those. And then our contributors to tonight's conversation were MK Ultra, Huxley, Truden Ryu, Tech Black Novice, and Sketch262. We had a bunch of other people in the chat who weren't really saying anything, but thank you to all of you who were just kind of hanging out with us. And let's take a look now at the team that we put together. So I'm starting with a water team. So we're gonna go over here and just have water and all the killers on the screen. And like I said, we're starting with a water team. Now, I have been talking with Horatio since March 1st about like how we wanted to start putting together a team without anything else to do in the game. We've just been like working on our team. So getting the news today about like what are going to be the focus units and things like that kind of got me working on my team a little bit more. And based on what we have in the news, I'm starting with let's get this out of the way, and we'll leave it. I'm starting with Abigail as a magic tank for her mitts and for her breaks and for her ability to kind of work Veil in. I think Abigail's gonna be great here. If we do end up needing to switch to a physical tank, I'm ready to bring Jekt, which is great for me. Your mileage may be different if you don't have Jekt. You could probably do Runda. Well, just depends on what the boss does. But I think the boss, the way they word it, sounds more like they want a magical tank. Ong is here to be our leader. He's also got Dragon Killer. He's also got some morale filling stuff. He's got the big amp field for water. And he's also just got good damage. So that's kind of where I want to start. Nicole. So my Nicole happens to be EX3. I will point out that Nicole does not have FFBE season 1 through 4. He just has FFBE. So he does not have focus at all. That's important. He does not have focus abilities. But in his base form, he's got elemental power water, so that's a 100% amp for somebody who needs it. He's also got the imperil field, 50% imperil field, because I upgraded his skills with crowns. And he can also do water imbue. He has blood, which is 135 imperil, so 135 plus 50 more is 185 imperil, which is pretty good, especially when you consider we're also getting the amp field from Ong. And he can do LB buffs, he can do status buffs, he can do, Protectka, Shelga. He's got options for us. He's also just got in his shift form, he's got elemental power water still. He's got true enhancing stance. He's got aquatic slayer 160 for 4 turns. That is in his shift form only, and because you have to have him at high EX level to get it, so you do have to time that well, but he does have it. He's also got, in case you need it, where is it? It is Water God's Rage, which is a beast killer buff as well. So like that's like better than nothing. But Melissa has it, and we're gonna talk about her in just a second. So I think Nicole is gonna be a fine addition to this month's team, even though he does not have focus or focus plus. Cool, Nicole. We've also got Hyo. Hyo is he's just an EX3 damage dealer, and he's got a Fist Imperil for Tifa. He's got good breaks. He's got he's gonna be getting a 100% rolling water amp from Nicole, and that's pretty much it. He's just gonna do damage for us. He's also got focus. Tifa, once you awaken her, or she's gonna have focus plus. I have not awoken mine to envy plus yet. I'm planning on doing that tomorrow, but she'll have focus plus. So between Hyo and Tifa, that's gonna be our focus units. I think we're gonna be okay there, because with a focus plus and a focus, you should be able to fill the gauge within 3 turns. And they did upgrade the focus abilities that they told us about in the last live stream. The focus energy is now going to include the modifier buffs and stuff, so you can like kind of work everything into one easier rotation. It's gonna make it easier to get those skills online. Hopefully help us do more damage. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. And then Melissa is here for shared immunity and Bardarkja, and Dragon Killer, Beast Killer, mitigations. That's kind of where I'm starting. So I hope it works. We'll have to look and see how it goes on Thursday. But I'm planning on starting with this team, at least for my actual attempt. My just like build up attempt will just probably be whatever I used for last month, and you know, Ong and Hyo, and just like blow stuff up on turn 1. Kaito, you know, usual turn 1 kill stuff for Clash of Wills. And that's pretty much it. So huge thank you to everybody who like contributed to our discussion tonight about what works, what you might be able to use. Make sure that you've got some Aquatic Killer, Dragon Killer, and Beast Killer, and that will help you to get ready. If you're looking for Aquatic Killer, Dragon Killer, and Beast Killer, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. You can get a lot just by playing the game. I talk about this all the time. So like if you need Aquatic Killer, there's not very much, but you want to kill Catastrophe Advanced in the 12 types trials, or the Octomammoth to just kind of start crafting your own Aquatic Killer. Otherwise, Aquan Killer from Ollie, Villager's Protection from Ferris, things like that. For Dragon Killer, there's kind of tons and tons of stuff. The Apollo Harp, Ashura's Rod, Dragon Killer Plus Recipe, Dragon Eater's Sense, Operative Zyrus's Holographic Transceiver. All the new Zyrus stuff is going to be giving you Dragon Killer and Aquatic Killer as well, so make sure you keep an eye out for those. For Physical Dragon Killer, you can get the Dark Lord from Scorn of the Sworn 8. Not that great of an option, but it is there. Glacial Battle Guard, Garb, Last Guardian, Virtue Drake, you know, things like that. Lots of good things there for Dragon. And then Beast, you know, there's stuff for Beast. The Artemis Bow, Beast Killer Plus, from Scorn of Aemon, True Mirasame, Rafflesia for Beast Eater Sense, Cerberus for Beast Killer Plus, Recipe to craft your own, Valued Memories from Irvin, Vortex Battle Guard, or Vortex of the Passion Hatred from A2, Infernal Battle Guard from Ifrit Rain. Tons and tons of stuff for Beast. Like honestly, the hardest one to gear for is Aquatic, just because there's just not that much out there, and that's why I really hope that Zyrus has an Aquatic Killer buff for the party. If he does, to me that makes him much more valuable, and I would be much more inclined to be like, yes, I'm going to pull that unit. But as he is right now, I'm not 100% sure. I really want to take a look on, you know, Thursday morning, Wednesday night at what the rest of his kit has. But if he just has that one element and doesn't really do anything else and doesn't buff the party in any way, and if he looks like a JP Neovision Plus unit, feels like a miss to me, especially since he's not limited. So we will see. I think the best thing that they have going for him, if you go into the exchange shop, is that his fragments are there. Blood Mage Zyrus fragments, you can exchange coins. So I think that's really, really good. Bear in mind, since he's not limited, that his VIP fragments will not be available immediately. But you know, we'll get them eventually. And then hopefully we can get him leveled up. So if you are going to pull for Zyrus, you know, let me know in the comments why. I'd love to hear why you think that it's a good idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's just not really what I think I want to do until I see some more information on Thursday. But that's it for right now. So until then, be good to each other, take care, and we'll see you live on Twitch, where I'm going to try and do Clash of Wills stuff, maybe polls, we'll see, on Thursday night. So until then, we will see you later, and have a good couple days, guys.